I'm Father Joshua West, and I'm the campus chaplain here at NC State University. And I've been here for about a year and a half, and it's been just a great experience getting to know all these students that come through our center. And I firmly believe that we are here to form these students to change the world. The future of the Catholic Church is right here. The future of our diocese is right here. And the future leaders that will be influencing this world are right here. And we spend a lot of time forming these students through small groups, through Bible studies, through different formation experiences that they have. We have a program called Life, in which they learn about their Catholic faith in a deep way, not like a comic book type faith, but a deep living experience of Jesus Christ. We also offer the students, which is the most important part, the sacraments, Mass, daily Mass, Adoration, and we have Adoration every day. These students can come and just spend time with Jesus, and we know how often, just the difficulties, the struggles that they experience, the mental anxiety that they can experience in these college years, and just in which they're trying to find themselves. And we know that we find ourselves in Jesus Christ. And so offering these students here just opportunities to encounter Jesus Christ. And then, and then what do they do with that encounter with Jesus Christ? Well, they're called to go out and to influence this world and to change this world, so that each and every person can experience the love of Jesus Christ. And actually, it's funny. Just a couple weeks ago, we have a French student here. He was down here for daily Mass, and he picked up one of Father Don Calloway's consecration to Saint Joseph, and so he picked up the book, and he saw that it's good to do this consecration with a group of people. And so he got a hold of 10 buddies back in France, and asked them if they wanted to do the consecration along with him. And so they said yes. And every day for the 33 days of this consecration, he would translate and send to them in French the daily reflections and meditations they do for that particular day. And and that's just a little example of what we're called to do, and how we're called to form the students that walk through our doors, to touch the world, to touch the people that God has providentially placed in their life. And leaders. I mean, that's what we are. That's what we're all about. And that each and every student realize that within themselves, they have the capacity to influence and to touch other people's lives.
Hi, I'm Abigail. And my secret to maintaining my Catholic identity in college is not too big of a secret, but community. Finding like-minded people that want to continue to pursue their love of the Lord, and creating close friendships with those people has been super important for me. And of course, spending time with Jesus in adoration, receiving the sacraments has been a huge part of maintaining my Catholic identity.
How has CCM impacted my life? I guess simply it's given me mission. It's taught me the mission of what it means to just be a man in this world, and especially as like a Catholic man in this world. And there's too much suffering and pain that has been created to be the norm, and that's not the truth. We were created for love. We're created for joy, and there's only one true source of joy, and that's God. And so, being able to turn my life around completely from the classic norms of partying and alcohol and whatever else, to now graduating and going off to be a missionary for the next 2 years of my life. I thank it all to CCM and thank God for all the grace and gifts He's given in my life, through this family and through this community that we have and is continuing to grow each and every day.
One of the things that really stuck out to me about being a part of the Catholic campus ministry here at NC State was, for one thing, finding a really diverse community of believers. Coming into college, right, a lot of people will come from small towns or something like that, and then they'll come into this big new world with all these people from all over the United States, the world, from all these different backgrounds. But it was beautiful to come together in the Catholic campus ministry because, we're one holy Catholic church. We're universal. And so all of these people believe the same thing as me. They all believed in Jesus Christ. They all believe in the Catholic Church. And so coming into this was, it taught me a lot about other cultures, about other people, but also how unified we are. And especially in how divisive our world can be. That was a beautiful thing to see, that this unification through faith, through Jesus Christ. Another thing about CCM that really stood out to me and I think is really important is the easy access to sacraments. It's been so great in college to have this easy access to Mass, to adoration, to reconciliation, to all these sacraments. And that's something that inspires me, and hopefully it inspires other college students to continue this drive to find these sacraments in the future. It's really easy as a college student to take a step away from the faith, right? You're in high school and you're younger, and maybe you're going with your parents or something like that, and you get to college and it's your choice now, and you have to make that decision. So having that readily available access to the sacraments makes it easier, and it helps you have the strength to continue on. And one of the other things that really sticks out to me about being a part of the Catholic campus ministry is that it has equipped me to share the gospel better. I've been fortunate enough to be a part of leadership in multiple different ways in our campus ministry. And what that taught me is ways to share the faith. It can be a little intimidating if you've never done that at first to share the faith with others, but through practice and through this community that you build with other believers, you're able to share the faith better to others, through leading Bible studies or mentoring people or, those sorts of things. We build up the skills that we need to share the gospel and to really follow Jesus's command of going and making disciples of all nations. So being a part of CCM has really blessed me in so many different ways. Spiritually, even personally, I met my fiance, so there's a lot of really good things that came out of CCM for me. But I think the biggest thing for me is just that community that not only taught me how to live my faith better, it taught me how to share my faith better. And I'm able to fall back on that community all the time whenever I'm feeling down or whenever I'm rejoicing. We're all able to be a community together in Christ, loving Christ, and wanting to spread His message to the world.
Hi, my name is Corbin Zalacek. I am a missionary with an organization called Focus, the Fellowship of Catholic University Students. My organization is new here to the Doggett Center, but we are here this year, and we have a mission of serving college students across the nation. We're on about 180 campuses, and this is the first year that we're here. So it's very exciting to be here and to be able to reach college students. The reason that we serve college students is because by the time that a person turns 23, most of the people who have left the Catholic faith have done so. It's actually 80% by the age of 23 have left the Catholic faith, and that number goes up to 85% of non-Catholic Christians have left their respective faiths. So the college campus really is a battleground, and places like the Doggett Center are really important, and that we partner with to be able to reach college students through Bible studies, through walking with students in discipleship, being able to teach students how to do the same, to reach their classmates, to reach those that are in organizations with them and their friends, because we have the truth, we have the beauty, we have the goodness that Catholicism has to offer, and we are called to share it. We're called to be both faithful and fruitful, and the college campus is the battleground for a lot of spiritual battle that happens. As a recent college graduate, I understand the need to be able to reach other college students. And so when my team and I arrived here in July, we were faced with an extraordinary task of starting our apostolate on this campus. And then COVID hit. And it was very difficult, to say the least, to be able to reach as many people as we have. But through the work of our chaplain and the students here, and the resources that we have from our organization, and from the support of the diocese, we've been able to do tremendous things on this campus. We've gone from having just a couple of Bible studies to now we have over 15 Bible studies that we lead, and walking with numerous students and being able to form them on how to lead Bible studies themselves and how to walk with other people. It's been very, very, we've been very blessed with what we were trying to accomplish here, and it's been really great to be able to walk with students and be able to see them grow and see them reach their classmates, which they, being able to instill confidence in them to be able to reach those around them has been tremendous. Has been very, very inspiring and keeps me going every day in what I'm trying to do here.
Nothing that isn't true can last for 2,000 years. There's nothing that is divinely inspired can last 2,000 years. But yet the church has lasted for 2,000 years, and the truths that Jesus Christ proclaimed have lasted for those 2,000 years. And I think people in this day and age are looking for some sort of happiness, some sort of fulfillment in their life, and they don't have an answer. And it's amazing that we live in a time, in a society, where we objectively live in the best time to be alive as far as food, medicine, entertainment. It's all at our fingertips, but yet people are more depressed, they're more lonely, they don't feel loved, and this is happening more than any other time in history. And what is the answer to this? People say what has happened in the 21st century is there's been an increase in moral relativism and God has left. In our culture, we can't even agree on what life is, what we are made for, what we're here to do. And this has led to a lack of identity. And I think that if we need to find our identity in God and recognize each other as brother and sister, and if we can recognize we're all made in the likeness and image of God, it will allow us love to penetrate our society in ways that we can't even begin to comprehend. And I think as Catholics we have an obligation to share the love of Christ and to be a beacon of hope in our society and in our culture, and to proclaim the truth as of God and of Jesus Christ.
My name is Allison, and my favorite saints are Saint Gianna Mala and Saint Mark Jichan Sheng. I love Saint Gianna Mala because her holiness, her sanctity was so ordinary. She was a wife, she was a mom, she was a pediatrician, and she loved God in every single day. And yes, she gave her life for her baby at the end of her life, but that's not what made her a saint. It was every single day leading up to that, where she just lived in her mundane life for the Lord. And then I love St. Mark Jichan Sheng because it gives me hope that even in my sinfulness, God can make me a saint. St. Mark Jichan Sheng lived in China at the end of the 1900s, and he was addicted to opium for his whole life. He kept going back to confession, and eventually his confessor barred him from the sacrament. He said he wouldn't absolve him until he got better because he didn't understand addictions. And so for 30 years, St. Mark Jichan Sheng was barred from confession, was barred from the Eucharist, and he knew that the only way that God would get him to heaven was through martyrdom. And so when the Boxer Rebellion broke out at the beginning of the 1900s, St. Mark Jichan Sheng was one of the martyrs. He and his entire family was killed for being Christian, and he asked the rebels to kill him last because he didn't want anyone in his family to die alone. And so his witness to God's mercy and to just the love of God in just very extreme circumstances gives me hope that God can make me a saint even in my sinfulness. And St. Gianna Mala makes me hopeful that I can become a saint in the ordinariness of life.
I'm Megan Rogers. I'm a sophomore at NC State. I've been blessed with incredible parents who have shown me how to live a life striving for sainthood. They both demonstrate to me the incredible love of my Heavenly Father and my Blessed Mother, and they just have shown me what a blessing it is to live a life of complete love and service and the joy that comes from that. They continuously show me the heart of my Father, and they show me my identity as a daughter of God and the mission that I'm called to. And they encourage me constantly to dive deeper into this and to just live a life of persistent joy and love.
Hi, I'm Keegan Maloney. I'm a senior at NC State. So what my favorite sacrament is, my favorite sacrament is the Eucharist, or the Mass, and the Eucharist being the focal point of that. I just love the ability that God has given for me to be in His presence, to worship Him, to enter into that sacrifice that He made on Calvary and at the Last Supper, and to just be part of that is a wonderful gift. And continuing that moment of consecration of the Eucharist and the Mass throughout Adoration is a big part of my life. Like every morning, trying to go to Adoration and spending time with Jesus in that sacrament that He has given us in His body and blood in the Eucharist. It's just an incredible way to really come more so into union with Him through receiving Him into myself in the bread and the wine, and just seeing the ways that that's transformed me to be more so myself by being more like Him, me being made in His image. The more I become like Him, the more perfectly I become myself.
So my question was, with all the challenges and issues in the church, why do I choose to be Catholic? Well, I think this question, I really like the question. First of all, I would say one of the most important things is faith and trust in the Lord. I know that the Lord is a one true God and that He's going to be with us. And, as the final prayer in the Divine Mercy Chaplet says, that in difficult moments we might not despair. So that's why I'm still a Catholic. Another big important part, probably one of the most important parts of our faith, is the Eucharist. You cannot find the Eucharist anywhere else, only in the true church. Therefore, I decided to stay with the Catholic Church. And really, when I think more about this question, I think the question shouldn't be why I choose to be Catholic or why I decide to stay with the Catholic Church. And I think the question would be, why wouldn't I be Catholic? The Catholic Church, again, is a one true church. Here we have all the truth. If you want to get to God, you have to go through the church. So now let me talk a little bit more about the issues or the challenges in the church. There's this saying that I really like. It's that you don't leave Jesus because of Judas. I mean, the church is a very large institution, right? Millions of people. It would be very hard, close to impossible, to expect no one to do no wrong, right? After all, we are human beings. We fail. Some people attempt not to fail and still fail, and some others don't even care. But that doesn't mean that that's the reason why we'll leave the church. The church herself is like perfect, right? It's us, the humans, who fail and who do the sins. Another big important thing is that where does the church start, right? It comes from Jesus Christ. Jesus was the one who, organized it and instituted the Eucharist and founded the church. So it is not just some human organization, some human institution. It comes from God. So those are the things. Like, I don't see a reason why not to be Catholic, really. It's just the way it should be, because here's where you find the truth, here's where you find God, and here's where I'll find peace.
The reason I choose to be Catholic throughout any issues with the church and why I constantly go back to the church and stick with Catholicism is because of Jesus' love and His mercy. I think Jesus instituted the Catholic Church, and that's where He's present in His fullness in the Eucharist. In going to Him there, I've encountered His love and His mercy like nowhere else. And that's what I think this life is about. I think that the Catholic Church provides us with a place to grow to know Christ more, to constantly go to Him in all these different ways, which can seem confusing because there's many different ways to encounter Him, but ultimately all these things lead back to knowing Him more, to knowing His love more, to knowing His mercy more, and to ultimately be more transformed to Him on this earth so that we can carry out God's will for us on this earth. Because in the same way that Christ came to earth, lived and died, He had a mission to carry out on the earth, and in the same way we do too. So through the Catholic Church, I've been able to encounter his love, his mercy over and over again, grow to know and love him more and more, and just be transformed by him. And it's just been a joyful and beautiful journey. And yeah, that's why I'm Catholic, and that's why I stick with the church.
So, hi, my name is Michael. I'm a sophomore student at NC State, and the question that I have was, who's my favorite saint and why? And I'm going to start off with like an obligatory, like Mary and Joseph are as my like spiritual parents, are probably the two highest, like the two highest saints in heaven. So I'm just going to, them aside, there's a saint I was introduced to this summer at a Catholic summer camp I worked at in Hollywood, Maryland, called St. John's, by a friend of mine. His name is Peter, and he was like, after hearing my story and when I was a kid, like going through my experience of my mom having cancer, and she survived, but as I was telling the story of like sort of me wrestling with that happening, he's like, oh, this is a really cool saint you want to get to know, and her name's Blessed Chiara Badano. He's like, okay. So I did some research into her, and as I've gotten to know her more and know about her, I like sort of our friendship has grown, and my devotion to her has grown accordingly. And some of the biggest things that have really like stood out to me for her, first of all, is she's very contemporary. She was born in 1971 and died in 1990, which is only about 30 years ago for us. And she's all like around the age, like she's between the age of my mom and dad, and so that's like very contemporary compared to most of the saints, which are like hundreds of years ago. And so that sort of relatability already built in of like similar experiences. She's born in Italy, and so only child, but even from her youth, she's a very holy girl. She would start off, as all kids are, it's sort of selfish. It's like when her mom got her like toys and something, there's a story where like maybe Chiara was like too selfish with their toys as a little girl, and so her mom said something to her about that. And the next day, Chiara was making a pile with her old toys and her new toys, and the mom walked up to her and was like, oh, what are you doing? And she said, I'm donating my new toys to the kids who don't have enough money to have toys. And so she was just going to keep the old toys she had. And just sort of little ways like that of really striking me as like, wow, she really is holy from her youth. And this trend sort of continued as she went on. When she was 9, she took her family, her two parents, to a event put on by the Focolare movement, which is like a sort of a Catholic movement within Italy. And she actually convinced her parents to go, which is sort of like, it's very striking to me that, she got her parents to go, and that whole experience is like enlivening, and for the whole family, it really boosted their faith. Her parents sort of had a renewal and wanted to, grow closer to Christ. And for her, it introduced her to two people that were really very important for her, or two concepts at least. Chiara Lubitsch, who was the founder of that movement, who sort of became like a mentor figure for her, and then a hallmark of her spirituality, which was trying to console the forsaken heart of Christ. And that is a key part of the Focolare movement. And so for her, just like Jesus being like abandoned and not being loved, like that to her was like the greatest need. And so she devoted her whole life to trying to love him when he was unloved. And she got a big chance to show this when she was 17. She was just playing tennis with a friend of hers, and she got a sharp pain in her shoulder. And she realized that she had, after going to the hospital and getting checked out, she realized she got diagnosed with a very rare type of cancer. And it was very like lethal, and like the odds weren't looking good for her. And so she went home with her dad, and sort of like her mom tried to come up and console her, but she just wanted to be left alone. So she went into her room and for about 25 minutes was wrestling with this diagnosis. And then when she came back down out of her room, she was joyous and had a smile. And that has always struck me, and to the point where she had a trend of like the Chiara 25 minutes, whatever the thing was. Maybe it's a bad grade on a test or something like that. And then by the end of those 25 minutes, she would be able to offer that joyously to God and then go and live it. And then she ended up dying of her cancer. But throughout the whole process of, like, she died at 19, throughout the, like, a year and a half of her having cancer, she really offered that up well, to the point where she wouldn't take pain medication because when she did, she was too loopy and like wasn't really conscious enough to actually make what she was suffering a prayer to Jesus. And so, you know, for her, she's like, I don't want to take these medications because I want to be able to offer everything to God. And there's a picture of her in sort of like the hospital bed and the hospital gown and everything. That was very reminiscent to me of seeing my mom in the hospital as a child. I don't have like an exact picture of her, and they don't really look alike as people, but just sort of the same setting and same attire really struck me in that once I saw that picture. And so, you know, sort of like her contemporary status as being only like 30 years ago, and then her just living up the suffering she had well, is what has really drawn me to her.
I can talk about a lot of people in my life that, currently in my life, that have a huge effect on me and role models, but I'll be remiss if I didn't first talk about something that is close to me that I recently discovered that I didn't necessarily neglect, but I didn't necessarily appreciate fully, and that is the role models that are the saints. I think it's really cool that God had the foresight to give us capital J Jesus as the perfect example for man, but also didn't neglect the idea that there are people like us to have as role models in our community, in our 2,000-year history, that function as great role models for me in my life, right? And have been through the problems that I've went through entirely. And when I discovered that, like I felt like I had like a cheat sheet. Like I'm going through these problems, right? And these there's people who've been going through these problems for the past 2,000 years, and I get to find what worked for them. And the best part is that they ended up in heaven. Yeah, and like and when I discovered that, like it became almost like this little cheat sheet. And the best part is that the cheat sheet that are the saints as a template for my life is a cheat sheet that God wants me to have, right? So like, like we have a whole catalog of saints, and like the Catholic Church says, go ahead, pick one. Heck, we'll give you one for your baptismal as well, right? To relate with. And I feel like it did a lot for me during COVID when I lacked that human intimacy. Like I transferred from an outside university into a new university, and I didn't know basically anybody entirely, right? And so I spent a lot of time in my head, a lot of time not really saying, sometimes I would not say any words for an entire day, and I lacked that human intimacy, and I lacked those role models and that community in my life, and I found that community with the saints and reading about them and the problems that they're going through and how they apply to my life and how great that is. But as far as but saints might be a little bit like as we're at the tail end of this COVID pandemic, I would like to talk about more like about the people in my life currently that help me. And the first thing that comes to mind when I think of role models are the holy men and women of the clergy. And priests and all those people that devote their life to Christ entirely, right? I think it's really cool that when I think of the noun, like priest, father, in my head, the first word that does not come to my brain is skilled orator, right? Like that may be the case with a lot of priests, but that's not the first thing that comes to my mind. The first thing that comes to my mind are someone who devotes their life to Christ in an intimate way, so much so that they want to make it our occupation. And I feel like sometimes when we're sitting in the pew, we don't realize just how me and Father have the exact same goal in life, which is, and they do it extremely well, but we have the exact same goal, which is to listen to God in our own lives, right? And to take that and to try and take as many people with us to live closer with God and spread the gospel with joy. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention my parents. And how big of an effect they've had on me as role models, right? The older and older I get, the more and more I realize like I'm getting closer and closer, maybe having a family in my future. And it's great to be able to look back and see how much my family has done for me, including my father and my mother, especially my grandmothers. Like if we're the Army of Christ, like grandmas, you're like the Green Berets, or like the Special Forces entirely, because they absolutely knock it out of the park. God bless them. But they've given me a lot to draw from, forming my own life and forming the man that I want to be when I grow up, and start to grow. And I guess lastly, I'd just like to talk about my community and how much they mean to me personally, and how much they do for me. Being able to look left and right, like shoulder to shoulder, and see people who are going through the same things I'm going through, and when they fall, like from the graces of God, they get right back up with me, and they're here to support me entirely. And that's something that the community is growing for me, because like when I'm starting to enter more into adulthood, right? More people are starting to relate to me when I look left and right now. Like when I was 16 years old, I was like, oh yeah, that's just some random Joe Schmo, and that's someone who's with me in the community, who's got my back entirely.
The Doggett Center means fellowship to me. Some of my greatest friendships and memories were made here, all in the presence of our Lord.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, Doggett Center has been a place for our family to grow, especially during the pandemic when we couldn't host all our events in Tally. And so despite having to shrink from like 100+ people on weekdays, we're still having consistent time to grow in fellowship and grow as Catholic men and women.